When my parents sat me down that evening, I had no idea the conversation would leave me reeling. Their tone was unusually serious, and as I watched them exchange nervous glances, my stomach churned with a sense of impending doom. Finally, my mother spoke, her voice wavering just slightly. "We need to talk about your wedding savings," she said. For a split second, I thought they were going to tell me something sweet, that they'd added more to the fund or found a venue as a surprise. But what came next knocked the breath out of me. "We've decided to give the money to your sister," my dad said bluntly, his words cutting through me like ice. I blinked, trying to process what I'd just heard. My wedding savings, money that I had been putting aside for years, money they had promised to match in support of my big day, was no longer mine. Instead, they had decided without even consulting me that my younger sister deserved it more. "It's for a good reason," my mom chimed in quickly, as if trying to soften the blow. "Your sister's struggling right now. She and her fiancé need help starting their life together. You're more independent. You've always been the strong one. Independent. Strong." Words I'd once been proud to hear now felt like a slap in the face. This wasn't about me being strong. This was about them choosing her over me, plain and simple. I stared at them, searching their faces for some sign of regret or hesitation. But all I saw was resolute determination. My throat tightened as the realization sank in. They had made up their minds, and there was nothing I could say to change that. I didn't cry. Not in front of them, at least. I nodded, muttered something about needing air, and walked out of the room, my heart pounding in my chest. Outside, the cool night air hit me like a wave, and only then did the tears start to fall. This wasn't just about the money. It was about the principle, about trust, about feeling like I didn't matter as much as my sister did. Over the next few days, I kept my distance. My parents went about their lives as if nothing had happened, while I tried to wrap my head around how they could do something so hurtful. Every time I thought about my wedding, the one I had dreamed of since I was a little girl, I felt a pang of loss. I couldn't afford the day I had envisioned without their support. I couldn't have the dream dress, the perfect venue, the celebration with all my friends and family. But what hurt the most was knowing that they hadn't even considered how their decision would affect me. They had handed over my dream to my sister without a second thought. My sister, for her part, seemed oblivious. She gushed about her wedding plans every chance she got, completely unaware of the storm brewing inside me. "We're thinking of doing a destination wedding," she said one afternoon, twirling her hair as she scrolled through pictures of tropical beaches on her phone. "I mean, with the extra money Mom and Dad gave us, why not, right?" She laughed, and it took every ounce of strength I had not to explode right then and there. But I didn't. I bit my tongue and let her carry on, all the while formulating a plan. If my parents wanted to give her a wedding to remember, I was going to give them one they'd never forget. The idea came to me late one night as I lay in bed staring at the ceiling. I didn't want revenge. Not exactly. I didn't want to ruin her wedding or cause a scene. What I wanted was to prove a point, to show my parents just how much their decision had hurt me. I wanted them to realize that their actions had consequences, that playing favorites wasn't something they could do without repercussions. And so, the seeds of my plan were planted. First, I threw myself into my work, taking on extra projects and picking up freelance gigs to save as much money as possible. If I couldn't have the wedding I originally envisioned, I was going to create something even better, something unforgettable. But this wasn't just about money. It was about creativity, about finding a way to make my day unique without breaking the bank. I started researching DIY decorations, unconventional venues, and budget-friendly catering options. I wanted every detail to reflect me and my partner, to be a celebration of our love and resilience. At the same time, I began pulling back from my family. Not entirely. I didn't want to raise suspicion, but enough to give myself space to focus on what truly mattered. My parents noticed, of course, My mom would call and ask why I wasn't coming around as much, and I'd respond with vague excuses about being busy with work. My sister, wrapped up in her own wedding planning, barely seemed to notice my absence. By the time their wedding rolled around, I had everything set in motion. I attended, of course. How could I not? But I kept a low profile, smiling politely and staying out of the spotlight. The ceremony was beautiful. I'll admit that much. But as I watched my parents beam with pride, I couldn't help but feel a pang of bitterness. They looked so happy, so proud of what they'd done for her, completely unaware of the damage they'd caused in the process. Still, I kept my composure, knowing that my moment was coming. Their smiles, their pride, it was all temporary. Soon enough, they'd realize that their actions had set off a chain of events they couldn't control. What came next? That's where the twist begins. And trust me, it's worth the wait. The weeks after my sister's wedding were filled with quiet determination. As I finalized the details for my own wedding, every decision felt deeply personal, and every choice was infused with meaning. The barn venue, nestled at the edge of a sprawling field, was a place I had discovered by chance, and it felt like destiny. It wasn't grand or opulent, but it had character, warm, rustic, and unpretentious. Just like I wanted my wedding to be. The decorations were a labor of love. I spent late nights crafting handmade centerpieces, stringing together photographs of cherished memories, and writing heartfelt thank you notes for every guest. My fiancé and I chose food that reminded us of our favorite meals together, and the playlist was a reflection of our relationship, a mix of songs that had been the soundtrack to our story. This wedding wasn't just an event. It was a celebration of everything that truly mattered to us. Inviting my family was a decision I didn't take lightly. Part of me wanted to keep them at arm's length to protect myself from their judgment or insensitivity, but I realized that excluding them would only give their actions more power over me. If they attended, they would see firsthand what I had created. A wedding that was mine in every sense of the word. It wasn't about proving a point or seeking validation. It was about reclaiming my narrative. When the day finally arrived, the barn was transformed into a magical space. The setting sun cast a golden glow over the fields, and the string lights twinkled like stars as the guests arrived. My parents and sister were among them, their expressions a mix of curiosity and hesitation. As they walked through the barn, taking in the intimate details and personal touches, I could see the realization begin to dawn on them. This wasn't just another wedding. It was something far more meaningful. The ceremony was everything I had hoped for. My fiancé and I exchanged vows beneath an arch adorned with wildflowers, our voices steady, but filled with emotion. There wasn't a single dry eye in the crowd. The authenticity and rawness of the moment made it unforgettable. Not just for us, but for everyone there. My parents sat near the back, uncharacteristically quiet, their expressions softening with every word spoken. At the reception, my family wandered the barn, pausing at the photo wall and lingering over the handwritten notes. I could see my father studying a picture of me as a little girl, his face etched with a mix of pride and regret. My sister, usually the center of attention, seemed unusually subdued as she observed the warmth and connection that filled the room. For the first time, they weren't the focus. They were witnesses to something greater than themselves. When it came time for the speeches, I stood before my guests, my heart pounding, but my voice strong. This wedding, I began, isn't just about celebrating love between two people. It's about resilience, gratitude, and the strength to create something beautiful even in the face of challenges. I glanced toward my parents, meeting their eyes briefly. It's about family and about finding joy even when it seems out of reach. The room was silent, the weight of my words sinking in. After the reception wound down, my parents approached me hesitantly. My mother's voice was filled with emotion as she said, "We had no idea what we'd done. You've shown us something truly remarkable." My father nodded, his usual stoicism replaced by sincerity. This was perfect. he admitted, quietly. My sister, too, hugged me tightly before leaving, her voice soft. Your wedding was so full of love, she whispered. It makes me realize what I missed. In that moment, I felt a sense of closure. My wedding wasn't about revenge. It was about reclaiming my happiness and redefining what mattered most. It was a statement, too. Myself that I could rise above hurt and create something extraordinary. As I stood in the quiet barn at the end of the night, I felt peace like I had never known. This wedding wasn't just a celebration. It was a triumph.